If we look at the U.S. relations with Iraq as a model, we will find that U.S. policy towards the Middle East has not adapted to the major problems of the 21st century. For example, 3 weeks ago, Barbara Leaf, a respected former colleague who is today the Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, the chief in charge of managing day-to-day relations with countries in the region, and a diplomat with special expertise on Iraq, met the Iraqi President and Prime Minister, and the Speaker of Parliament. According to a general statement issued by the U.S. State Department, it discussed the political crisis in Iraq and the security of the region. 2 weeks ago, Assistant Secretary of Defense Celeste Wallander met in Baghdad with the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Advisor, and the Army Chief to discuss military cooperation and the fight against ISIS. On September 21, Brett McGurk, the Biden administration's chief Middle East policy official, met Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein in New York to discuss military and security relations and regional stability. Thus, these three high-ranking U.S. officials spent much, if not most, of their time with their Iraqi colleagues discussing Iraqi and regional political issues and counterterrorism. It is noticeable that these are the same topics that the Americans focused on in their interaction with the Iraqis for 15 years. In the summer and fall of 2022, can we say that the fight against terrorism and regional politics are the biggest problems that drive Iraqis to the brink of madness? For their part, Iraqi analysts highlight that the lack of electricity during the summer, poor water services and corruption, push Iraqis to take to the streets. Of course, another year of drought and rising temperatures associated with climate change is another major problem. In fact, climate change affects countries in the Middle East region, such as Iraq, severely. The question here is, how can an American military advisor find a solution to the problem of families who are forced to leave their homes where farming has been for thousands of years? However, during the September meetings, U.S. officials in Iraq said little about infrastructure, efforts to contain corruption, and reduce the harmful effects of climate change and water scarcity. No high-ranking U.S. official has met the Iraqi water minister or the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Of course, Washington cannot solve Iraq's problems, and our experience since the years of war should make us humble in our ambitions. Moreover, we have our own problems with corruption. It is worth noting here that the ranking of the United States in the Transparency List issued by Transparency International in 2021 is the lowest since 2012. And when you look at the horrific wildfires in California and Oregon, and the growing water scarcity problem in the American West, it becomes clear that we can't solve all the problems associated with climate change within the United States, and certainly not in the Middle East and North Africa. However, there are lessons we have learned. For example, cities in the arid American West, such as Las Vegas and San Diego, have reduced per capita water consumption significantly over the past 20 years. In addition, the central government's management of water resources, such as the Colorado River, has delayed the worst effects of climate change and given us more time to find solutions. Washington can share its experiences more broadly with governments and experts in the region who need practical ideas. It is noticeable here that senior U.S. officials do not focus on issues such as these as first priorities in their meetings. Indeed, American support for education should be part of a new approach. In this context, I would like to salute Barbara Leaf for her visit to the new American University in Baghdad. It is worth mentioning here that Washington provides about $15 million annually to help universities using the American system in Iraq. It is known that the U.S. military support for Iraq is more than 200 times that amount. For its part, Washington plans this year to defund some rule of law programs that help Iraqis try to find solutions to corruption, an example of how Washington continues to focus on security and counterterrorism approaches in the region. On the other hand, the Iraqi Ministry of Water Resources signed an agreement with the U.S. Agency for International Development, to help address water scarcity. However, the funds allocated and the number of experts in this regard remain small, compared to the military support that we provide. At the same time, the Agency for Development needs more experts, managers, and funding. This situation cannot be compared to the abundance of personnel and funding in the Pentagon. The Assistant Administrator for the Near East at the U.S. Agency for International Development could become the principal responsible for managing the new initiatives. This position rewards Barbara Leaf for development. For its part, the Senate prevented the nomination of the Biden administration candidate for more than a year. While the Pentagon has significant political support in Washington, the Agency for Development lacks that level of support. One way to persuade Washington to begin shifting its focus is for Middle East officials to pressure Washington to shift its focus away from a heavy focus on military and security issues, and toward more cooperation on the escalating problems that Washington largely ignores, despite their detriment to the lives of the region's citizens.